Great to be here with everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning class that is offered by the Insight Meditation Community of Washington. IMCW is the kind of the larger Sangha, and within IMCW we have the Center for Mindful Living. Many who are here are part of CML, maybe it's IMCW as well, and just a quick thing on that. We're launching a kind of a new, kind of a more expanded vision of CML, for the next whatever decade or however long it might be. Expanded offerings, both classes and meditations, and also Sangha-led sessions. If people aren't familiar with the CML, I really encourage you to come along to some of the classes happening every day, really, of the week, classes and meditations offered. And you can get the link that Heather has shared in the chat. You can get all the information there, as well as many, many Sangha-led offerings. My favorite things from Bettina and Poetry Sangha, which Bob led. I think you're not so leading that now, but played a big role in that, and storytelling, a whole range of other things, walking the garden path, and just a whole, wonderful Sangha-led offerings, peer offerings, as well as the meditations and the classes. So really encourage you to check all those out, or some of those out. And also, we're as part of this vision for the period ahead, we've launched a survey, and I've shared it there in the chat. So if you haven't got it, many of you I know are a part of the community and on the listserv and the newsletter, and maybe have already got it, maybe already completed it. But we really encourage you to fill that out. It only takes about 5 minutes, but it kind of indicates, helps us kind of get a sense of what are people most looking for, whether it's in-person classes or more online or both, and what kinds of offerings, what kinds of meditations and retreats and all of that. And so your input on that would be super helpful. So you might just copy that link if you haven't already done it or don't already have access to it. So on behalf of IMCW and the Center for Mindful Living, really warm welcome to everyone. I hope you're having a good weekend. I'm Hugh Byrne. I've been teaching a Sunday morning class around this time for coming up for a quarter of a century. Started in 2000 in a friend's therapy office in Woodley Park, and then gravitated around the kind of Woodley Park, Northwest DC, up to Tenley Town and to the center, which we ultimately established about 12 years ago in Tenley Town. And now, most of the things are online, but more things are happening in person as well. So get all that information on the newsletter and on the website. So what I'm going to be, the theme that I would like to explore again today, because it's a big theme and it needs more than one session, is the practice of equanimity. Cultivating a steady, balanced mind. And it can really make the difference between freedom and suffering, whether we meet what comes up in the world, in our lives, in our inner life as well, whether we meet it with equanimity or we get swept along by whatever comes along. Something happens. Oh God, that's terrible. Oh, that's wonderful. I won the lottery. That we can find balance and steadiness in the midst of everything, and that really is a doorway to peace, happiness, and freedom. So that'll be the theme today, continuing that reflection, that discussion. exploration. And in terms of the format of the class, we normally begin with a meditation and a talk and some movement, guided movement. And kind of thinking today it might be nice to have the meditation and then the movement, if that works for you, Kirsten. And then we'll have the talk, and then we'll have as much time as we need for the talk, and then some time at the end for sharing. So very, very warm welcome to everyone. I hope everybody really feels welcome. If you're here for the first time or the second time, we'd love to get to know you better. And, you might put where you're joining us from in the chat, and we look forward to spending this time with you and seeing you come back for other offerings as well. So, now with a sip of my English breakfast tea, or maybe Irish breakfast, we'll begin with the meditation. So maybe just taking some moments to arrive and settle, sitting in a way that's comfortable and relaxed. So sitting with your back straight, you can invite the eyes to close, let the attention come inward. Maybe feel the contact of your body with the surface beneath you. And just opening to whatever is present right now in the body and the heart and the mind. You might find it helpful to take a few longer, deeper breaths as a way of just calming the body and the mind and settling. You might take a nice full, deep in-breath, filling the chest, filling the lungs. Just pausing briefly and then releasing, letting go. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. So letting your breathing help you relax and settle into being here. As you settle and arrive, you might invite a smile or a half smile to your face, to the corners of your eyes and your mouth. It's that expression of a smile, maybe thinking about somebody who easily makes you feel happy or joyful. You might let the smile be an expression of how you want to meet whatever's coming up, whatever's coming to you from the world, coming to you from your own thoughts and emotions. Just meeting whatever is is here, whatever is present with kindness and with acceptance. Remembering Martha Postlethwaite's poem Clearing, where she says, "Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing falls into your open, cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue." So you might think of this time as really creating a clearing, creating a space, a sacred space in the midst of our busy lives, a space to be present for whatever is here, whatever's calling for attention, just to meet it with openness, with acceptance, with kindness. So nothing has to be any different than it is, than how it is. If tiredness is here, you might just open to that, breathe into it. Maybe take a few deeper breaths just to kind of bring some energy into the body and the mind. But accepting that what's here is here right now. Nothing needs to be different. And meeting whatever is present with kindness and with acceptance. As we sit in the clearing, in this space of acceptance and kindness, what can come at times is clarity and insight, kindness, acceptance. It can lead to peace, to letting go. And we can go back into the world, perhaps with a different sensibility, different attitude to our experience, to life. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. Just see how it is to make space for whatever is here right now. Letting it come, letting it be, and letting it go when it's ready to pass. We cultivate equanimity by meeting this moment, whatever's arising, with acceptance and with kindness. This moment doesn't need to be different than it is for us to be at peace, for us to be free. In the words of Dorothy Hunt, peace is this moment without judgment. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without judgment. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. And if it's helpful, you could gently let the attention rest on your breathing as a kind of anchor for our awareness. Kind of grounding us here through this awareness of this changing flow of experience, breathing in and breathing out. And we'll find at times that the mind can have a mind of its own. We find ourselves caught up in something in the future that we imagine might happen, or something that happened in the past, or something going on somewhere else. Just not to make that a problem at all, just see that as a kind of the habits of mind. And then to incline the mind back to the body, back to the breath, back to this moment, back to, if you like, reality out of stories, out of memories and daydreams and plans. It's back home, here, now. And we can consciously cultivate equanimity. We can use, like with loving kindness or compassion, we can use certain phrases, some breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I calm my mind. May I be balanced. May I be at peace. May I be balanced. May I be at peace. And we can invite the arising of equanimity, this state of steadiness and balance. With phrases like, may I learn to see the arising and passing of all things with equanimity and balance. May I learn to see the arising and passing of all things with equanimity and balance. May I be open and balanced and peaceful. May I learn to see the arising and passing of all things with equanimity and balance. May I be open and balanced and peaceful. And like with loving kindness and compassion meditations, we can wish equanimity for others. We could send equanimity out to everyone here together today. May you be balanced. May you be at peace. May you learn to see the arising and passing of all things with equanimity and balance. May you be open and balanced and peaceful. We could send equanimity out more broadly into the world with all the suffering, perhaps focusing on particular parts of the world or particular people who we know are suffering or not at ease. May you be balanced. May you be at peace. May you learn to see the arising of all things with equanimity and balance. May you be open and balanced and peaceful. To finish, this is from poet Rainer Maria Rilke. I live my life in widening circles. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I will give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? So taking your time, coming back to the group, and Kirsten will lead us in some movement. Thank you, Kirsten.
Good morning. Thank you for that beautiful meditation, Hugh. So I'm standing, but if that, it's kind of hard to get to standing after such a lovely meditation, right? But if that is not comfortable for you, please stay seated. And we're gonna, since the theme is balance, let's find our balance. So first, let's feel our feet on the earth, and you can do this from the chair. Just feel, maybe pick your feet up, pick it down, and just really first feel your feet on the earth. And then maybe shift side to side. And then just feel your feet on the earth. And then find your balance here, right? Find where you've got even weight between both feet. Maybe go back and front a little bit to try to feel weight in your heel and the ball of your foot. Sorry, I'm in bare feet. And maybe if you have your shoes on, it might be harder. But just feel the earth right now. And that's the first place to find your balance and your connection. So let's go ahead and we're going to breathe in, hands up overhead. And then just bring your hands down to your heart, Anahata Mudra. And we're going to do that a couple of times. So breathing in, hands up and over. Hands back to your heart. And again, find that breath. Breathe out. And breathe out. And one more time. Pause. Maybe let your hands go. Once again, see if that changed anything in your feet, anything in your shoulders and your posture. So let's go ahead and we're going to bring our hands up and overhead. I'm going to clasp my right wrist. I'm going to press into my right foot, and then I'm doing mirrors, sorry guys. And then I'm going to lean to the left. Breathing into that right side of your body. Really press into that foot, reaching out of that hand. So you feel that coming back to center. And then just gently letting those arms go down. So our lateral line is really important to our balance. So it's so important to open that up. Breathe in. Grab that left wrist. Press into that left foot this time. Lean to the right. Opening that left side of the body. Breathe into it. Really press that foot in. Stretch out. It can be as little or big, just as long as you feel that opening, coming back to center, coming back down. And let's just do a real simple twist. So I'm going to have my feet on the earth. Hopefully you can see me okay. I'll move out a little bit. So I'm going to bend into my knees a little bit. I'm going to drop my hips. I want to feel my weight in my heels. I'm going to bring my hand, one hand behind and my opposite hand across to my thigh. So this is my right hand to my left thigh, left hand to my lower back. It's whichever way, it doesn't matter which side. Try to draw that spine tall. And try to, beautiful. Press into those feet, come back up. I'll switch sides. Just pause for a moment, just feeling how that felt. And once again, start this from a standing position, okay? So just bring that hand to your lower back and then just drop. You don't have to drop your knees very far. We're not trying to touch the earth. And bring your opposite arm around. So we're just trying to do a real gentle twist. Breathing in and breathing out. Find that breath. Beautiful. Press into those feet. Come back to center. And let's go ahead and we're just going to open up the shoulders a little bit more and the wrists. So we're going to draw our arms out. Okay. And I'm going to put one hand, one wrist on top of the other. I'm going to twist my hands, clasp my fingers. Looks like it works. So we're not going into eagle arms. I see that. We're just going to come in and out. So this is just a nice little stretch for the shoulders and also a nice stretch for your wrists. I know we're sitting mostly in meditation, but this is what I was feeling this morning. Okay, and then pausing out and then switching, which hand is on top, clasp those fingers, same thing. Coming in and out. In and out. In and out. Beautiful. And if we have wrist issues or my arthritis was bothering me, this is my one teacher calls it the meatball. So you just make a fist and I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to massage. So just bringing my hand down and I'm just kind of grabbing or gripping onto my arm and coming up and around. This is This is lovely for arthritis. And then we're going to do it the opposite side. So I just make a fist, and then I just take my other hand and I'm just massaging down, just gripping it, coming around. Right? Sometimes it's hard to feel in our feet when we're so distracted by aches and pains. So anyways, and then let's let that go and just shake it out. Just wiggle around. Let it all go. Beautiful. I'll just do one more movement and then we'll end. So I'm going to take my left arm across. I'm going to bring my right hand to the back of my arm, and I'm just going to stretch it across. And yes, we absolutely can do this from a seated position. We're just opening those shoulder blades. Try to allow your shoulder to relax because we're trying to get into that back. I'm going to open the arms really wide, and then I'm going to go to the opposite side. So I'm just drawing behind the back of my arm to help open. And then I'm going to open again. We'll just make this a little dynamic, just nice and slow. Left hand across again. Open that heart. Opposite arm. Beautiful. Or should I do... Sorry, I'll do one more motion. So let's go ahead and use our thighs as a support, and we're just going to do a forward fold. So I'm going to just drag my hands down my legs, and I'm going to come as far forward as I can. And if that's to my knees, that's fine. I just want to try to keep my spine nice and long. Nice and long. Draw that spine nice and long. Oh, there we go. I got a crack. And then just bow forward. And then you're going to slowly drag those hands back up. And then roll those shoulders back. And then bow to one another. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Kirsten. That was beautiful. Much appreciated. It's very easy, particularly as we get a little older, or really at any age, really good to bring awareness into the body and do some movement. So much appreciated. Thank you. And welcome again to everyone. If anyone joined us after the beginning, welcome. And so what I'd like to do today is really continue the reflections on equanimity and the role it can play in our lives and how it can really support us in finding greater peace, greater happiness, more freedom in our lives. It might be worth just reflecting in a very kind and non-judging way on, where we are ourselves in relation to this quality or this practice of equanimity. Do you find yourself being, activated or triggered by certain things in your life? Apparently there's a lot going on in the world right now in politics and very easy. And sorry, I was going to be a little facetious, but it's serious things. But things that are very easy to get swept up in. Whether it's in relation to the conflicts in the world, the conflicts in the country, political things, elections, all of those things. People who have different views from us, do we ever get kind of swept up in that? Oh, I'm so angry with this person, or maybe people in our own lives, people in our, that we work with, kind of for whatever reason, rub us the wrong way. Or do we get caught up in, a lot of projections about where things are going to go in the future? We get caught up in various different expressions of fear in our lives. Stress is a very prevalent, very pervasive expression of fear. It's basically a story in our mind about the future. It's not about what's happening, or it's not fundamentally about what's happening in the present moment. It's about what the mind is doing, projecting into the future. Oh, this is going to happen. Oh, this is going to happen. I'm never going to be able to do all this. So the mind gets swept up in strong emotions, painful mind states, and when it does get caught up in that way, that is the opposite of equanimity. It's not balanced. It's kind of being pulled this way or pulled that way, whether it's towards things we like or experiences we like, or pushing away experiences we don't like. It can be helpful just to reflect in our own, where do I tend to get caught up? And it could be, it tends to be very different for each one of us. Some of us are more, prone towards getting angry about stuff. Others may be more prone to get, caught up in, I need this, I want this, a more kind of craving attitude, I need this to be happy. I need this feeling, this experience, this taste, this, whatever it is. I need this. In all of these cases, the present moment isn't enough, And so we're kind of like, I need this, I want this needs to change, this shouldn't happen, all of this, the mind getting into these, really separating ourselves from the present moment. And the way back home, as we've heard over and over again, is always to come back to now. What's here right now? What am I experiencing in this moment? Can I be with this moment? Because if we can be with this moment and really allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, experience what we're experiencing, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, if I can be with this, then that is really a moment of freedom. And it points to, the deeper freedom that the teachings really, say, the end of the path, complete freedom from suffering. If we can just be with the different moments as they're changing, as they're coming and going. Like, oh, this is here now. Okay, this is here now. And this is here now. It's changed. The thing I liked is gone, and now this thing has come along. Okay, if I can continue to be with my experience as it is, then that really is an expression of freedom. And it is, at least a microcosm of the freedom that's possible, the way we can potentially live our lives. And so most of us, at least a lot of the time in our lives, are not in that place of equanimity where we're kind of blown this way or that way, oh, this terrible thing happened. Oh, this great thing happened. We're pulled, oh, I like this. I want this. I need this. I don't like this. We're kind of swept along by what the Buddha called the 8 worldly winds. I'll talk about those more in a little bit, and just kind of highlight his teaching around that. But just for now, just to say that I say most of us, and I say most people in the world, I don't want to be too generalized too much, but I would say most people don't live from a place of equanimity, or in a place of equanimity, that we're, most of us are caught up in one thing or another. I mean, most of us are probably a mix. We have times of peace and we're okay and we're balanced. But a lot of the time we're also kind of swept up in things. So equanimity is about consciously cultivating that understanding that it's possible to live our lives in equanimity, that we can live, maybe it's not in every moment of our lives, but in more and more of our moments, we can just, okay, this is difficult right now, and I can be present with this. I can be with this difficult feeling or this discomfort or this strong emotion that, it doesn't feel easy. But if I breathe into it and allow it to come and go, then I can see the impermanence of it. I can see that, it changes. It doesn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. So that we can come into a different relationship with our experience, and ultimately with our life and with everything that happens in the world. And that's really what this quality of equanimity points to. As I talked about the last time a couple of weeks ago, some of you may have been there for the talk, maybe not everyone, but that equanimity plays a very, very central role in the Buddhist teachings. It's one of the 4 what are known as the Brahma Viharas, heart practices, what are called the divine abodes, these beautiful qualities that we can cultivate of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and the 4th one, equanimity. Equanimity really being, this balancing, steady quality that actually steadies the other qualities. If we're cultivating compassion and if we're not sufficiently aware, our kindness and our wishing for the well-being of others may kind of morph into a kind of shadow compassion, not genuine compassion. It might be I begin to see myself as above the person that I'm wanting to, whether I'm caring about their well-being. And then it turns into pity, which is not compassion. If I'm up here and you're down there, oh, poor you, then that's not compassion. Compassion is always inclusive. It's always, you're no different from me and I'm no different from you. Just as you're suffering now, I also suffer, maybe not in the same way at the same time, but that this is a human condition. We see the humanity in everyone, not what our roles are, or we're better than or worse than or the same as, but that we see ourselves, we see our common humanity, and we care about the suffering of others. Equanimity helps balance, helps compassion be genuine compassion, and loving kindness be genuine loving kindness, rather than what the shadow side of loving kindness can be attachment. Can feel similar, if like you're feeling loving or caring. If it has a quality of clinging, then it's not loving kindness. It then becomes clinging. So, it's all about the awareness. If we're not aware enough, we can, one quality can shift into another one. It can become something that is not the true quality. It's not genuine loving kindness. And when we see that, it's not a problem. We're not judging ourselves for it, but we can see, oh, okay, I see clinging arising here. Okay, can I notice that, let it go? And can I let my heart be open with compassion, with loving kindness, etc.? And equanimity, because it's really based on wisdom, helps us to see, helps us to stay grounded, helps us to, keep these other heart qualities as in their genuine form, in their really open-hearted form, rather than morphing into something else. I shared the some of the phrases, equanimity phrases. May I learn to see the arising and passing of all things with equanimity and balance. And it's that kind of, if we see everything comes and goes, the pleasant things, the unpleasant things, the good, the bad, the ugly, they all come and go. Then we can find, when we see that, oh, that's the nature of things. That's how life is. It's always changing. Yes, this is difficult now, and it's changing, and it'll be different, in some time. This is pleasant now. This too will be different. It won't last forever. So finding that seeing, understanding that everything comes and goes, that everything's impermanent, that nothing can be held on to ultimately. And to try and hold on to anything is suffering. So to be able to hold things lightly. You might have heard the story of Ajahn Chah, Jack Cornfield's teacher of other meditation teachers, as Thai forest meditation teacher of the second half of the 20th century. He had a cup that he really liked. He says, I love this cup. I really like drinking out of it. He says, but for me, it's already broken. This cup is already broken, And when I see it that it's already broken, when it does break, it doesn't, it's just the nature of things. Things break. Everything in the end will break, Societies will end. Civilizations will end. The planet will actually end, Probably not in our lifetimes, but, if we live for 4.5 billion years, everything ends. And so to be in a relationship where we see everything as being impermanent, that nothing can be held on to. And if we try and hold on to anything, we suffer. When we see that clearly, then we can find that peace and that balance. And that can guide the whole of our lives. It can inform everything, so that, I maybe in a minute, depending on time, I'll share some equanimity stories. But there may have shared one last time, but I'll come back to it. So equanimity as one of the Buddha's heart practices, the 4 heart practices, the divine abodes. Equanimity is also one of the 7 awakening factors. The 7 qualities that the Buddha said lead to freedom, just as the river inclines towards the ocean, so these qualities incline us towards freedom, towards enlightenment, towards awakening. And equanimity is the 7th of these qualities. I'll just name them. I won't obviously talk about all of them, but mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, and meditation. That you can look at them as a progression that, as the mind becomes, present, investigation, the quality of being interested tends to arise. We pay attention to anything. It naturally becomes interesting. Of like, if I look at the palm of my hand, that's really interesting. Look in those veins under there and the lines, etc. It kind of becomes, we investigate, and then with investigation, energy tends to arise. And with energy, joy tends to bubble up. And once the joy settles, it becomes more tranquil. And when the mind is tranquil, then it becomes more settled and more concentrated. And the concentrated mind, a balance, steady, focused mind, is open to equanimity, the last of these 7 qualities. So equanimity is a very, very, very central theme in the Buddha's teachings. Often the metaphor is used of a mountain. This is from some of the earliest Buddhist teachings. Just as a rocky mountain is not moved by storms, so sights, sounds, tastes, smells, contacts, and ideas, that is, the 5 senses and the mind, anything that arises, whether desirable or undesirable, will never stir one of steady nature whose mind is firm and free. So comparing, that state of equanimity to a mountain that, there's snow, there's sleet, there's hail, there's rain, there's, storms, the whole lot, but the mountain stays steady. And when our mind is equanimous, we can all of these experiences, situations can come along, but we can stay steady and balanced. And this is from the poems of awakened nuns in the early Buddhist period. If your mind becomes firm like a rock and no longer shakes in a world where everything is shaking, your mind will be your greatest friend, and suffering will not come your way. So if you can keep your mind steady in a world where everything is kind of shaking, amidst the worldly winds, then your mind will be your greatest friend, and suffering won't come your way. I find that really powerful because, probably all of us have experienced times when our mind was not our friend. Have you ever been caught up in stress or in fear or in anger, and you're kind of like pulled along by what's going on in your mind? This bad thing's going to happen. Oh no. And the mind is like pulling you along, and it's not your friend at that time. I often share the story of the person riding along, galloping along on the horse on a horse at top speed, and somebody shouts out to the rider, "Where are you going?" And the rider shouts back, "Don't ask me, ask the horse." And that's what I love, that kind of image, because a lot of the time when we're caught up, when we are caught up in these states, it's the mind that's in control, not, the habitual mind, the non-unwise mind that's in control. And we're kind of being pulled along by that. And so what we want to do, and what equanimity and mindfulness help us to do, is kind of get the reins back, slow the horse down. It's going to be okay. just settle down and everything, and just kind of come back to a reasonable pace, and then things come back into their rightful place, as it were, come into steadiness and balance. But when we're caught up in our minds, then it's a place. It can be a place of great suffering, and equanimity is just a much more pleasant, as well as a much wiser place to live our lives. In this recognition, in this understanding, in this state of balance. I think of T.S. Eliot's lines from his poem Ash Wednesday. He says, "Teach us to care and not to care. Teach us to sit still." And I think of that, a translation of that, if you like, for me, is teach us to care and not to cling. Teach us to care and not to cling. Because we care, we want to care about our own well-being and the well-being of others and the well-being of the world. We want to shut ourselves off from that is another form of suffering. Kind of, oh, I don't care. That's too much for me. I'm overwhelmed by it. I don't want. That's not a very good place to be. Sometimes we go there. We have to work with that, but it's not a place to live our lives. So shutting it out. We want to care about the world. I think it's natural, and it's healthy, and it's wholesome, and it's liberating to care about others, care about the world. But can we care without clinging? Can we care without clinging to outcomes? Can we care about what's happening in the conflicts in the world without, getting into an us or them thing? We're right, they're wrong, or you're wrong, or whatever. And to be able to see the humanity of those who don't necessarily have the same views as ourselves, to be able to have conversations that are difficult conversations. So teach us to care and not to care. Teach us to sit still. And that with the serenity prayer, grant me the power to, or how to go, how may I change what I, have the courage to change what I'm able to change, and the acceptance of what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So to be able to kind of, yes, we may need to change things, and equanimity is not about passivity, it's not about inaction. It can be very much about action, but action from a place of balance, from a place of steadiness and acceptance of life as it is, life as it's unfolding. I want to just reflect on perhaps one of the Buddha's major teachings on equanimity. It's a sutta or a discourse or talk on what currently, I mean, often called the Eight Worldly Winds. It's called the Loka Vipatti Sutta, Lokavipatti, Loka Vipatti Sutta. And that translates something like the failings of the world. The failings of the world is how Thanissaro Bhikkhu translates it. And essentially this teaching, it's in a way, it's a simple teaching as the Buddha's teachings are, because he wants as many people as possible to understand the teaching. It's simple but also profound. And in this teaching he says, monks, practitioners, these 8 worldly conditions spin after the world, and the world spins after these 8 worldly conditions. So the world kind of operates on these organizes itself around these 8 worldly conditions. And these conditions are, have an impact on the world. And what are these conditions? Pain and pleasure, gain and loss, praise and blame, and fame and disrepute. They're kind of 4 binaries, 4 pairs. One we tend to like, one we tend to not like. We like pleasure, we don't like pain. We like gain, we don't tend to like loss. We like praise, we don't tend to like blame. We like fame, we don't tend to like disgrace or disrepute. But the way the Buddha teaches about these 8 worldly winds, 8 worldly conditions, he says these worldly conditions really affect everybody. It's like the mountain, the rain, the snow, the hail, the sun, everything. They fall equally. They don't discriminate. They're just the way the world works. But he makes the distinction between the way a wise person approaches these 8 worldly conditions and the way an unwise, untrained person approaches these worldly conditions. So he says, for an uninstructed run-of-the-mill person, a person that's not practiced the Dharma, these 8 conditions come up. Pain, pleasure, pleasure, pain, gain, loss, etc., praise, blame. They also arise for somebody, what he calls a well-instructed disciple of the noble ones. That's kind of who we aspire to be, well-instructed follower or disciple of these teachings, also experiences these conditions. So what's the difference? What distinguishes between, they all experience these worldly conditions, these worldly winds. What's the difference between them? And then, he asks his followers this, and they say, well, please give us the answer. Give us a talk on this. And the Buddha says, well, gain arises for the uninstructed, run-of-the-mill person, and he or she or they don't reflect gain has arisen for me. It's impermanent, it's unsatisfactory, it's changing. And so he or they don't see it as it actually is. So the uninstructed person doesn't see pain and pleasure as they actually are, rather tends to get pulled into the pleasure and want to resist the pain, want pulled into the praise, want to push away the blame. And it goes through each of these, pleasure, pain, gain, loss, praise, blame, fame, disrepute. The regular run-of-the-mill person doesn't see them as they really are, but actually gets caught up in them, gets pulled into the pleasant ones and wants to resist the unpleasant ones. And so that person suffers because they change. When you get the thing you like, but then it goes away, oh no, I wanted that to last. Oh, that's not fair. Or the unpleasant thing comes along and, oh, I want to get rid of it, but it lasts or it comes back. Oh, I don't like that. So we're in a fight with the worldly winds, etc. Oh no, it's snowing. Oh, it's a cold day. It's a wet day. Oh, why? Why me? I had such great plans for today. Oh, poor me. My life is a mess. All the kind of stories that the mind creates. It's like, well, it's just life. That's how life is showing up. Sometimes, you put a lot of energy and resources into organizing something, an outdoor event, and then it, what's with rain, it comes down really heavily and you can't do what you wanted to do. Well, that's how life has shown up, Are you going to be bowled over by that? Or can you meet it with this state, this evenness of mind, this equal mind, equanimity? So in contrast to the uninstructed worldling, run-of-the-mill person, the practitioner who's, practiced seriously sees pleasure arising, but also sees that it's impermanent, it's changing, it can't be held on to. And so that person doesn't get distressed when something is unpleasant, when there's blame, when things don't go the way we want them to. We accept that this is just how life is unfolding. So essentially what he's saying is one path leads to happiness. If we can see these worldly winds, we can experience them in a balanced way. Like, oh, this is what's here right now. Maybe not what I wanted, but this is what's here. Rather than, holding on to what we like and pushing away what we don't like. Don Juan in the Carlos Castaneda book spoke about, the spiritual warrior, practitioner sees everything as a challenge. The everyday person sees everything as a blessing or a curse. So the difference, the challenge is, okay, this is how life is showing up. Whereas every day, oh no, that's terrible. Oh, that's wonderful. That difference between that. The second one, you're going to suffer because things are going to change. But if everything's a challenge, nothing needs to be a problem. You can make the same analogy between seeing things as a problem rather than seeing things as a situation. If you see something as a problem, it's like, oh, this is something, or, in the sense that I'm using this, the problem as really being problematic, or then we suffer. It's like, oh, well, I've got to solve something, I've got to do something. Whereas seeing it as a situation, well, okay, this is a challenge, this is something I need to work with, but not inherently problematical. So the way somebody committed to these teachings and practices experiences the same realities leads to greater happiness, greater peace, greater freedom. But the more we cling to things should be, the way we want them to be, then it's a recipe for suffering. And that's really the heart of these teachings, that we'll all experience these 8 worldly winds. They're not problematical in themselves. They're just the way life unfolds. But we can find peace if we accept the truth of life as it's unfolding. Yes, we can change what we can change. But we can't change everything, and the remedy for when we can't change something is to surrender. Surrender isn't giving up. It's not passivity. It's recognizing this is how life is. This is the way life is unfolding. I think it's time for a story, if I can find a story here somewhere among my papers there. There's a few stories. Where is equanimity? Here we are. Equanimity amidst the stories. I think I may have told the story of. You probably heard the story of the Zen farmer. The horse runs away, and that's terrible. And then he comes back. The horse comes back with 10 more horses. Oh, that's wonderful. Anyway, this is not that story. This is the story of a monk, Zen monk called Hugh, and he was well respected for his work among the people. And in the village, a young woman lived, the daughter of food sellers, and the young woman became pregnant by her boyfriend, who worked nearby in the fish market. And when the parents found out about this, they were very angry and pressured her to reveal the name of the father. She wanted to protect the young man and blurted out the name of Hugh, the monk, as the father. And after the baby was born, the parents took the baby to Hugh, and they told him that he was responsible for the baby and left the infant with him. And he responded, "Is that so?" And he accepted the responsibility for the child without further reaction. The monk had no experience with babies, but he began to care for its needs, finding food, clothing, and warm shelter. And the other villagers became very angry with Hugh for his offense. And his reputation was trashed. This was disgrace, this was blame. But these comments didn't affect Hugh, who continued to put his effort and attention into the care of the baby. After several years, the young woman was filled with remorse. She confessed to her parents the name of the true father. They immediately went to see Hugh, apologized, and took the baby back with them. Hugh watched as they returned to their home with the child he had cared for since birth and replied, "Is that so? Is that so?" So that's, one of these equanimity stories of okay, there's praise, and, there's praise at first, and then there's blame, and then there's praise, and, meeting it with an equal mind. So this is the invitation. So I'd invite you to reflect in your own life, where do you get caught up, pulled this way or that way? Because that's really what all of the Dharma is about, finding our way out of identification, out of clinging and craving that leads to suffering. And at the heart of finding freedom is turning our awareness to our direct experience, opening to it as it is, as we do in the meditation. Peace is this moment without judgment. And the practice of equanimity, this central heart practice, central practice, is really a key to finding peace in the midst of life's 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, meeting it all with an evenness of mind. So can we hold things lightly? Can we see our tendency to get pulled one way or the other and just invite ourselves back to this moment is like this. Can I be at peace in this moment? So I'll pause here